discussing why freedom isn't safe, Mr. Rob Pincus.
I'm really excited to be up here today, not just talking about firearms, but I do talk about firearms a lot. I've been talking about firearms and gun rights for a long time, and that's how I end up here. So I'm the Executive Vice President of Second Amendment Organization, and we're one of the sponsors of the event. But I'm excited to not just talk about the Second Amendment, because the Second Amendment is one part of our freedoms that we should be exercising responsibly as Americans. So for the last 5 or 6 years, I've used this idea that freedom isn't safe to have conversations that are difficult with a lot of people from outside of the gun community about gun rights, and how the freedoms that we enjoy come with risks, and we have to recognize those risks, and we have to exercise those rights responsibly. Well, freedom in and of itself isn't safe, not just when it comes to firearms. There are risks with free speech. There are risks with fair and open election where everybody gets to cast a vote. You may not win. That's okay, because you can win next time. You can run for office yourself. You can lobby. You can advocate for the things that you're interested in. So what are we interested in? We're interested in freedom. Defending freedom action signs. I was excited about it. This is great. Let's talk about this. But we have to be prepared to have some difficult conversations too. And that's, as I've sat in the audience today, I've heard a lot of different things about freedom. I've heard people talk about why they value their personal freedoms, why they advocate for the things they advocate for, the work that they do with the freedom they have to kind of do whatever they want in the US. We heard people talk about how they endeavored to learn about using firearms. Liberty was just talking about how she changed her lifestyle and her whole interaction with a tool that many of us grew up with. She didn't grow up with. She took up hunting and then obviously learned how to use firearms from a defensive standpoint as well, and now feels like she can exercise her freedoms, right, at a greater level because she took the opportunity to go out and learn about guns. Learning might be the most important freedom that we have. I really strongly believe that education and the opportunity to learn and discuss and have dialogue is our greatest freedom. And we know that the First Amendment is something that there are intellectuals in our country who are questioning the validity of for years. Is that there isn't a political party that owns freedom in the United States, not a major one, right? The Republicans have their pet freedoms that they like to push for. The Democrats have their pet freedoms that they like to push for. But pick your freedom isn't defending freedom. One of our speakers today talked about the importance of being active in the vote. He admitted, which I thought was really important from his perspective, that the reason the Republicans don't control the Senate right now is because Georgia voters didn't do their job. Georgia Republican voters didn't get out and vote. There are a lot of people who believe that this audit that just revealed that Biden actually won Arizona, right? There's a lot of people all over the country who believe that one of the reasons that the Republicans didn't win the White House was because they were actively discouraged from using mail-in ballots, right? And that's been mentioned today too. So when we talk about being free, we need to really think about what that means and the risks that are involved in our freedom. I walked streets in Georgia, knocking on doors on behalf of the Republican Party to get out the vote. As a gun rights advocate, I really thought it was important for us to control the Senate. And obviously we see that right now with a split Senate, probably not much is going to get done. But it would have been way better for the gun rights movement and for a gun rights advocate if the Republicans controlled the Senate. But I'm not a conservative. Socially, I'm pretty liberal. But I'm a big fan of firearms, a big fan of firearms freedom. I'm not a Republican, I'm an independent. I'm pretty moderate in most of my views. But I knocked on the doors for the Republican Party because I believe that was what was best for the country and that was what was best for a lot of things that I believe in. How many of you think get out the vote movements are important? Let's do a class participation, right? Everybody's been kind of in state. Raise your hand if you think, keep your hands up. We're gonna do class participation. Keep your hands up if you think it's important to get out the vote. Would you, keep your hands up if you would actively work in your communities to encourage people to vote. Keep your hands up if you would maybe drive people that didn't have transportation to a polling place on voting day, as long as they show a photo ID or whatever your thing is. What if, as they were getting into your vehicle, they were wearing the shirt for the other party? See, that's a problem, right? Like all of a sudden, oh wait a minute, he tricked us. It's a gotcha. Is it? I think it's important, right? Like that's freedom.
What if you live in a community though where there's, like I live in Northern Virginia in the communist subsection of Arlington. I mean, do I want to do everything you're advocating?
I think so.
Okay.
If you believe in freedom, I think you do.
Okay.
And I think that's the hard part, is there's an integrity piece of, do I believe in freedom so much that I might lose? Do I believe in freedom so much that I am going to turn the mic on for the person that's going to speak against my position? In classical debate, one of the best ways to be able to make your argument is to understand the argument of the other person, right? And I think our echo chamber sometimes precludes us from being able to do that. Right? I would much rather, if that person was going to vote in a way that I thought was going to hurt me, hurt my family, hurt my country, I want him in my car. I want to have a conversation with him. I want to have coffee with him. I might want to have a drink with him. Or her. Right? I want to have that conversation. And when we come to these events, and whether it's a gun world event or a political rally or whatever it is, too often I think we stay in our bubbles. We stay in our very safe space echo chambers. And I know that we think of ourselves maybe on the more conservative side or on the more Republican side or even the more libertarian side as very freedom loving and embracing of dialogue and debate. Suzanne earlier was speaking about how important it is to engage people on the other side, right, of a debate. She used those variations of the phrase, my body, my choice. Big thing right now with vaccines, right, with mask wearing and mandates. Well, all of a sudden that doesn't mean what it used to mean in certain circles, right? And she kind of tiptoed up to that line about abortion rights and then came back and said, but you got to talk to people about things and maybe this is an opportunity to have that discussion. Absolutely it is. And you don't have to agree about abortion rights. You don't have to agree about vaccines. You don't have to agree about mandates. And it's probably more important that you exercise your freedom responsibly to talk to someone who doesn't agree with you than it is that you sit down and have lunch with the people that already believe what you believe. That it is that you get them out to vote. They can get themselves out to vote. You've got work to do on the other side of the street. And that dialogue that happens on the other side of the street might change your mind. I think that's the danger, right? That's the danger with freedom, is you have to be willing to maybe be wrong. And I applaud, really, at a very deep, detailed level, what happened in Arizona. Do I think personally that we've really been distracted for the last 6, 8, 9, 10 months about election issues, that we probably should be focusing on things moving forward to make them better and not so much worried about what happened in the past? Yeah, I do, personally. You may not agree. But what I'll tell you is that the process played out. The process has played out 10, 20, 30 different ways now in some jurisdictions. And the results, as Amanda said, may not be what a lot of people in this room wanted the results to be, but the results are the results. And that's important. And the freedom to have that audit even take place. Can you imagine? Like, there are places in the world where those ballots are never seen. Nobody does, whether you're looking through the window or there's pizza boxes or you go around the back or somebody has to subpoena them or whatever, the ballots never get seen. I've worked in Africa for entities that were trying to protect elections in places where the ballots never get seen. Ours have been seen. There's more freedom here to challenge elections. There's more freedom here to challenge politicians. There's more freedom here to challenge each other than anywhere else I've been in the world. We have to exercise it. It's not safe, it's not comfortable, but we have to exercise those freedoms to engage one another in difficult conversations. We have to be willing to be wrong, we have to be willing to be disappointed, we have to be willing to work. And I really think that's an important piece of defending freedom, is working through the process and working through it with other Americans that may not agree with you. And then eventually we extend that to the rest of the world. I'm super excited about what happened in the Czech Republic. It's kind of cool to say we're the only country in the world with the gun rights protected in our Constitution. Well, I kind of think it's cool that that's expanding and that there might be more than just one other country, right, eventually. Now, let's on a secret, as a Second Amendment organization, Executive Vice President, I kind of like the way they worded their clause because it specifically talks about personal defense. Universal right to self-preservation is accepted all around the country. It's accepted all around the continent. It's accepted all around the planet. universal right to self-preservation. International law is a widely recognized and universal human right. But the means to do it is much harder to find articulated and find present when you go outside the United States. Freedom of speech is the hard one, really. Second Amendment, super important. We exercise it pretty responsibly in this country, and it's growing every day. All the new gun owners, all the new gun classes, all the new firearms instructors, a lot of people in this room are my friends and collaborators when it comes to expanding gun rights, and we've done a great job over the last 30 years. Texas finally got as free as the Texas pretends to be on September 1st, right? But 30-something years ago, you could not legally carry a gun defensively in the state of Texas. There was no permit system, couldn't carry a handgun even openly, wasn't there. People in this room, people that are speaking this afternoon and speaking tomorrow, did the work to make that happen. I came in at the tail end of that era where you couldn't carry in a lot of places. And now I'm thinking about how do we expand it, right? We went to shall issue, we went to permits, then we went to, now we're on a constitutional carry, and now we're looking at expanding even beyond the United States. When you have European countries fighting against the EU standards and saying, no, we want this to be a constitutional right in our country too, we're winning. So guns, I'm pretty happy. Freedom of speech, I'm a little bit more worried about it than I ever have been. Please exercise your freedom and defend your freedom and our countrymen's and countrywomen's freedoms to speak by engaging in dialogue with those that you may not agree with. Thank you.